We're having a great webinar today, digging into the secrets of intelligent sales reps, AI-powered sales apps. We have Mediafly's own Tony Cavadas, and we have SAP's John Heald. Super excited, and I'm going to kind of pass it over to Tony and John to start kicking off the conversation.
Excellent. Thank you, Jacqueline. John, how are you today? Good to see you.
Good to see you, my friend. Been a long time. I'm all good. And you?
I'm doing well. Great to have you join us from the UK, and I'm joining from Chicago. When I was rereading through this morning and doing a little prep, I was thinking, we could have used like a James Bond theme. Maybe next time we'll do that, with the secrets of intelligent sales reps. But as we move along, Jacqueline, first of all, John, I'm happy to have you here, in your role at SAP. It's great to have what I call the voice of the field, the voice of the customer, that you kind of represent, as well as all the work you do internally at SAP. Why don't you go ahead and just introduce yourself and your role before we get started?
Yeah, hi Tony. I'm more happy. And this picture always makes me laugh. Anybody would think I'm bigger than you by looking at these pictures. When they meet us in real life, they'll realize these are actually reversed. From
that could be by design. I don't know.
Yeah. So hi everybody. Yeah. So John Heald, I'm the global vice president at SAP, responsible for our customer experience portfolio. I define myself as having two jobs. One of them is doing this stuff, telling our customers and our prospects all the great stuff that we're doing with SAP, but also with our partners as well. But also the other part of my role, which is the more important one, is listening, working out what we're doing. Are we building stuff that's really helping our customers make a difference to their customers from that perspective? So really happy to be here. And we're going to spend a lot of time looking at some of the chats and some of the Q&A to really make sure that what we're doing from SAP, alongside our great partners like you, Tony, are doing stuff that's really helping you make a difference to your customers.
Thank you, John. And I'll quickly introduce myself. So for those of you, I've met a lot of you. And for those of you that are new to me, I'm the Chief Partner Officer of Mediafly. So I've been, shepherding this relationship with SAP for 8 years. I come with a 25, 30-year sales and marketing background. And, if you hear me talk or you read my blogs or any of those kinds of things, I'm very much about the seller and the life of the seller, and how do we make sure that we make the seller's life easier and provide them with the tools for success. But, I'm a firm believer that we got to do this in kind of one user experience, as opposed to putting, 5 different apps on a desktop of a seller and trying to make them work. And I think that's been one of the natural fits with SAP, and that I've appreciated over the years with you, John. Let's go ahead to the next slide. And, kind of as we get into this, I love how you started that out with kind of, listening to customers. And I mean, obviously with today's topic, you can't not hear the word AI out there. But I think it's important for us to kind of understand, what are some of the primary challenges you're seeing out in the marketplace, what you're hearing from customers, and so forth.
Yeah, I think things have dramatically changed, let's be honest, from that perspective, from this strictly linear process of lead, opportunity, quote, into a much more complicated thing. And this has been led by a number of different things. So for a start, the marketplace is getting more and more competitive, with everybody extending their footprint of what they do. People are no longer, I'm only providing this one capability. They're also going, I'm now providing this as a service. I'm now providing this as a solution, as a consumption model. So what people are looking for changes on a regular basis, because they see something nice from somebody over there, and then they have to do it over there, and then they have to look at what somebody's doing over there. And I was trying to find an analogy that talks about this. And again, I just thought about cars. If we think about in the old days, again, think about you, Tony, and the Ferrari. Again, they only used to make sports cars. That's all they did, just 2-seater sports cars. Now they've launched an SUV. They're expanding their range to where their market's going and what their customers are demanding. And I think we're seeing that across the board with B2B organizations.
Yeah, John, I like the analogy. It is true, when I first started selling, everything was somewhat linear, and we kind of, loved the fact that customers wanted to hear from us. They wanted to, kind of hear our point of view and so forth. And so I think that's definitely a great analogy. if we just kind of advance the slide, I think, this, if anyone's familiar with Chutes and Ladder, or John, what are they called in the UK?
Snakes and ladders for the UK.
Snakes and ladders. Okay, perfect. So I don't like snakes, but perfect if that's the analogy there. But tell me, you talked a little bit about how things have changed, but does this kind of summarize it for you?
Yeah, it just showed that everything is now much more complex, from the expectations of customers, especially now the buying audience are the Gen X, the Gen Ys, the Gen Zs, and the expectations of what they bring and what they expect an organization to bring have dramatically changed as well. And people are no longer waiting for a sales guy to come and see them to go and let them know about their product. People are now coming so much more knowledgeable into the engagement cycle. In lots of occurrences, the customer is more informed about the product than the sales guy going out to see them because of all the research and stuff a customer's done. So it's really about the complexity of how do you manage and meet the expectation of the buyer when you go to see them, because they already know a lot about you, your organization, your company, and your products. You can't just go in and say, look at my nice shiny thing, assuming they're going to believe everything they read from that perspective. But also buying patterns are changing. People are now buying things as they need to on a just-in-time requirement or on a growth perspective or whatever. The days of heavy loading the warehouse with 1 million widgets is no longer the case from that perspective. But also in this current climate, stagnation is happening in the organization. Lots of organizations are going, I'm too risk averse. I don't know what's going to happen. I'll do a no. It's not broken at the moment, so I'm not going to try and fix it, rather than going, here's the opportunity that I can seize if I fix this to get a mark against my competition from that perspective. And as we said earlier, everybody's extending the range of what they do. So you go to somebody expecting them to do one thing, they actually do 10 different things, and they always try and expand their footprint that they have with you. So you've bought one thing from an organization, they'll try and sell you the next thing and the next thing, and the next thing, and just broaden their scope as they're delivering more and more capabilities. So as a buyer, trying to understand that is getting harder and harder. We need to make the sales team, when they're engaging with customers, always be there adding value into the conversation, moving the customer up the ladder and not down the slope. You call them, or snakes as we call them in the UK.
So obviously there's a lot that you put in there, and that I want to pack a couple of pieces there. So definitely it's a lot harder for the seller to respond to the market or try to, control the market. But you did mention like that buyers are a new generation. And, as I like to say, like our children were, who are in university and a little bit beyond, they were kind of born with that device in hand, right? And they, like myself, like I would probably take a notepad and write something down. They might pick up the phone and ask Siri to take the note, or ChatGPT, or, who knows what, right? And so that's definitely different from the buyer perspective. And so you got to kind of meet the buyer where they're at. But talk to me about like what SAP views as the seller and the next generation of sellers. And, how do you think about that as well? Because the seller's journey is important as well to me.
Yeah, and successful selling journeys happen by understanding the buying journey. You're the opposite side of the same coin. So you need to really understand where the customer is on their journey. So just picking on the slide we've got here, again, if the customer's at slide 36, you know what you need, or 35, you need to roll a 1, give them one piece of information to move them to a 44. But actually, if they're a position 61, throwing them a 1 will actually bring you back down to 19. So it's really making sure that as a seller, you have an understanding where your customer is on this board and what it is that you need to do to move them along the process and hopefully up a ladder to accelerate the process, rather than moving them to the top of the snake or the top of the chute and getting them falling back down and moving away from the proposition that you're offering. So it's really about understanding where your buyer is and what it is you need to roll to help them move to the next stage.
Absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. Well, let's go ahead and move forward. And, let's talk a little bit about, we've talked about the issue, right? We've talked about the issue on the buyer side, the seller side, even the gen, piece of it, right? That's actually changed us, as well as the market and going through a pandemic and things like that. Obviously AI is all the buzz. I know you're hearing it out there in the field. I'm hearing it. Let's talk first about the idea of a sales assistant, right? So I heard SAP CEO talk about this on CNBC, as well as Bloomberg, about a sales assistant that's AI powered. Can you, kind of demystify that and tell us exactly what that is all about?
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think some of the stuff that we're doing is really important. I mean, for me, from the sales assistant, it's all about making sure that we're delivering an on-demand personalized experience. So it's knowing what it is that we need to do to help progress this customer on the journey. Again, as we said earlier, the breadth of knowledge of what a product offering that an organization has is getting bigger. The generation X's and Y's and Z's are transitioning from company to company on a very regular basis. So it's really about how do you make them the experts in everything? Because if they're not, their customers will be, or even worse, their competitors will be, and will know all the weak spots and stuff like that. So it's really about making sure that your sellers are delivering the right piece of content at the right time to the customer to move them on that journey from that perspective. But more importantly than that, is making sure they have that information where they need it to be. So whether it's having this in the content that I can send as an email to progress them on the journey, whether I'm out with a customer face to face where I need to produce some information to show them from that perspective, or whether it's just as I'm traveling around, I need to have the access to that data to understand where that customer is. And a few years ago, I wrote a blog called A Kiss or a Slap, which is all about a sales guy when going into a meeting. Sometimes the customer wants to kiss him, sometimes the customer wants to slap him. By having the assistants with them, they can know exactly the situation the customer is in, so they can get themselves prepared for the greetings they're going to get through as they walk through the door, because that's going to dramatically change what their sales approach will be from that perspective. So it's all about making it easy for the sellers to know what to expect and how to deliver on the expectations of the customers based upon the customer's current journey.
Yeah, so that's really interesting because, making it easy for the sellers, but I would assume we're also helping the sellers become more proficient at what they're doing. I think I also heard in some of those interviews the term upskilling, and being able to, maybe, when I hear upskilling, I'd love to get your thoughts on this as well. But when I hear upskilling, I think of how do we get a sales rep, a customer success representative, in seat and more productive faster, or more productive all around, whatever that might be. Is that also what SAP is thinking around upskilling and some of the benefits around AI?
Yeah, and really giving insight. So as salespeople become more and more transient in organizations, it's how do I replicate and make every salesperson as good as my best salesperson? And when my best salesperson leaves, how do I empower the person who's filling that role to have the right skill set to move things forward? So giving them the insight at their fingertips to know what's going on, but also issuing guidelines for the salesperson as well. So when we've done something similar elsewhere, what is the sort of discount that we needed to give in order to deliver, to secure the deal, but also deliver profitable business for us? Understanding if a customer has been doing certain things with you, the propensity for them to buy is higher. So if a customer is always replying to your email within 10 minutes, you're actually in a good situation. If it's taking them weeks to reply to an email, you're probably in a slightly different situation. If they're looking at the information that you send them and dwelling lots of time on certain add-ons that you're trying to offer them, there's an interest in there. Use that as part of your cross-sell and your upsell opportunity in there. But also making sure that you're delivering the right narrative for the salesperson as well. So what are the sort of things that get a customer on a hook? Which are the reference customers you talk about who are doing this already that this customer looks up to from that perspective? But also be cognizant of what's the next thing I need to do to progress this deal? Is it giving, in our example, a free POC to the customer? Is that the thing that progressed the deal? Is it giving them 1 month's free usage of the coffee machine and I just sell them on the capsules? What's the right thing that we need to do to influence their decision and move them up the ladder, to use the narrative from earlier? But also using the supportive selling. Who are the key people in this organization that you should be engaging with? When somebody replies to an email, they always CC this other person. Well, actually, maybe you need to stop building relationships. So it's about knowing what it is and who it is you need to engage with to deliver the most profitable business you can, but also when is the right time to introduce the additional add-ons, cross-sells, upsells that you're trying to do in those sorts of areas. And again, going back to the car analogy, we've all been there when you've decided which car you want and all that sort of stuff. And as you're going to sign the final deal, there is the paint warranty that you might want to buy to keep your lovely car, etc., etc., etc. And it's just educating your salespeople to know when those real touch points of influence can be, but also which are the right things that you need to be thinking about, positioning, talking about, and upselling with from that perspective to make sure you get the maximum share of wallet you can out of all the customers that you're dealing with.
That's really neat. So you really can, with AI and the new tool sets, you really can do more with less, which, may not necessarily mean that you shrink your sales teams, but your sales teams could be more effective and more valuable in all the interactions. And, from that snakes and ladder slide, when we see the fact that instead of one buying person or one buying center, there's now 5, you could adapt more easily using AI to address all those other buying centers, if you will, if I go down that example.
Yeah, and also knowing which buying centers not to go down. Again, I think to make your salespeople more effective and efficient, it's really using the AI to go and understand where are the ones you should double down on and where are the ones you should walk away from as well. I think deciding what not to do, I think, is one of the great things that AI can give you over and above your gut feeling of, I think we can do this. AI can do the crunching and the numbers for you and say, focusing on this $5 million deal over here is going to be a lot less rewarding than focusing on this $3 million over here, which is going to deliver better margin, better capability, better loyalty, better long-term investment from the customer. And actually, you've got a better chance of closing. So I think one of the things that I really think AI can do is help people focus on the right things, but also make sure they don't invest a lot of time and effort in the things where the chances of winning are insignificant.
Yeah, I love that. So Jacqueline, let's move to the next slide. And I think, John, obviously you and I here, when we talk to customers and prospects out in the field, but, here's just a couple of stats of, what I was interviewing one of your colleagues for Sapphire, and he said, AI is no longer, it's not like one of those technologies we're going to talk about for 5 years and not see it delivered. Like AI is in the here and now. And it's actually being deployed and so forth. And just, I don't know if you've got any comments here, but what's so neat about it is the time from ideation to value, for me, seems like it's, light speed, if you will. I don't know if there's any comments based on what you're seeing as well.
Yeah, and I think there's lots of buzz around this at the moment, and there's lots of people throwing generative AI at every problem. But actually, there's a couple of real good areas where AI is really helping, being sales guys being more effective, customer service teams being more efficient. Again, there's lots of areas where there's real value being seen very quickly from that perspective. And the ROIs for these are paying off. I mean, but also the one thing that I have seen is where lots of customers try and do this as a sidecar or a standalone on top or alongside their processes, they're not seeing the value. I mean, all these sort of things need to be natively embedded into the tools and the solutions that you're using just to deliver better impacts. And one of the things that I've seen from customers that I've talked to who've rolled out some of this capability is it's really helping them work on the stuff that matters, making sure they're much more effective. So again, making them much more higher performing. Again, as we can see from the right-hand side here, if they're looking at what they're trying to do and driving the right focus and the right agenda with the right people and the right capability, it's really making a difference and moving the needle. I mean, Tony, you speak to as many customers as I do from that perspective. I mean, what are you seeing from your customer conversations, from desires, demand, or activation that they're doing in this space?
Yeah, so likewise, I definitely see the buzz. And I think you're absolutely right in summing up the fact that people are seeing value, right? Because we use new technology because it drives value ultimately. And we're seeing customers wanting to try it, wanting to embrace it. And I also feel, and I may repeat myself at some point, just because I think it's so important. I kind of started with it of like this one UX, but bringing systems together. And Jacqueline, if you want to go ahead and move forward, that'd be fine. But bringing systems together, also is very effective with AI, because you're now leveraging data across systems, right? And so, some of the examples that I see are, we're out there being able to, I'm in a sales opportunity, if you will, getting ready for a meeting. And instead of me, the salesperson, having to go discover what content or what next best step for the opportunity is, the system can basically, look at emails, look at notes, understand even external sources, right? So it can understand like what's going on externally. Maybe, it knows that there's a product, I'm sorry, not product, but an acquisition going on. And it might serve up some case studies that I could use in my next interaction. Or maybe a slide deck that says, here's how other Mediafly customers have used Mediafly in rolling out, in bringing companies together and launching products, et cetera. And so that's a really neat use case. We can also, one of the other things that I think is really neat, we talk a lot about, kind of sales and service hand in hand, and you mentioned cross-sell, upsell before. And, one of the neat things is anytime you take, multiple systems and put them together and leverage that data across those systems, like the value to the end user, the value to your buyer, your customer just goes up, proportionately, exponentially, I should say. And, one great example is, if I'm on a service call and, call's being recorded and, I'm solving that issue, but it comes up that, something's coming out of warranty or what have you, we can automatically listen for that, share that information through AI to SAP, Service Cloud and Sales Cloud, where it can actually create an activity, provide the right content, and, to whoever that right rep is. Heck, it could even send an email directly to the customer with an offer if you wanted to, right? But if you want to think about the old way, I would have a Post-it note on my desk. I'd write the account name down because I'm getting to the next call, right, as fast as possible. And then I could, take a note and say, hey, something's coming out, write down some ticket number and hope I get to it by lunchtime, look up the account manager, send that person an email, and try to kick off that whole manual process, right? So if you think about value and how this stuff could just be happening and empower the sales and service team to work more closely together in ways that we've never imagined before, right?
Yeah, or even looking at the old days, you send the email to the account manager who actually left the organization 3 years ago, but nobody got around to updating the CRM system to let the system know that he left 3 years ago. Yeah, I think that's the old days. I mean, I agree with you, Tony, and I think some of the stuff in here about it's allowing us also, we talked about what the next best action is, but the system using AI to dynamically work out what the right next best action is, bearing in mind who the customer is, what their estate is with you, what it is you're trying to sell, what geographies they're currently in, the amount of open tickets that they have with you, et cetera, et cetera. Taking all of those factors and pieces of information into account to work out, for this type of opportunity, this is the sales process that I should be following with these actions, with these determined statuses, with these determined content. But actually, I could create the same opportunity for the same customer tomorrow, but because he opened 3 open service tickets with me overnight, actually the way I need to go through this is different. And using all the AI to take all of that information that you know as an organization about the customer to determine what is the right sales process to do. And as we said, with transient sales teams, again, training them up on here's our opportunity methodology, that's no longer a valid approach for most organizations. They have to go, the system will tell you what is the right thing to do to make you as successful or as a salesperson as lazy as you want to be from that perspective, but allow you to deliver on all the measures and all the things you need to do to be as successful as you can be.
Absolutely. So tell me a little bit about, what SAP is doing, and, you can kind of see some of it going on in the background here, but, I know you guys have made a lot of efforts across the platforms, but specifically in CX, regarding AI and this new digital selling wave and so forth. It'd be great to hear about that.
Yeah. I mean, one thing that we noticed is salespeople hate using sales tools because they see it as a management control system to keep track of them and see what they're doing. So one thing that we've really made sure we do here is make sure this is a sales tool for the salespeople. Yeah, the management get reports at the top of it as well, but it's actually how do I make my salespeople as effective as I possibly can from that perspective. And as I said earlier, it's about making sure that we embed the information within the process that they're in. So they don't go elsewhere to go and say, what do I need to do with this lead? What are my 5 talk tracks that I should be talking to this prospect about when I go and speak to them? The system will automatically go and generate, here are the 5 important characteristics that this customer could be concerned about. As I go through opportunities, the system will go and automatically score everything that's going on based upon stuff that we've done in the system, so activities we've done, but also things like the email that we sent them. How long did they spend dwelling on the content that we sent them? How quickly did they accept the meeting request that we sent them to go and play golf or just meet in the office or have a coffee? And taking all of that sort of level of insight into the system to go and say, this is what I think you should be doing next. But more importantly, it's also giving all that capability to the salesperson when he's out in the field. So on his mobile phone, he has access to the same level of information, the same structured insight, and the same type of insight and focus of here are the things that you should be doing next for this opportunity, or just overall from a prospecting follow-on capability to make sure that I'm embedding this stuff to what they do and it becomes part of their daily process, and they see the value out of doing this. So they now understand by giving the system information, the system will help them be much more effective and efficient. And this is actually seen as a tool that helps them do their job, as opposed to it being a hindrance to them do the job. So this is almost like moving from walking to getting in a car, what this is doing, rather than just being given a heavy rucksack to carry around that's just going to slow you down. It's really about speeding you up and making you more effective.
So that's really intriguing, and I love that embedding AI into the process almost every step of the way, right? Because it can be useful there. You said something else that was really novel. Not that I'm surprised, but that you were creating sales tools for salespeople. And I think that's just kind of a general shift in the marketplace where CRM and things like that are typically seen as just management tools. But if you can actually leverage that tool as a salesperson, whether you're a salesperson, a sales manager, or CSR, business development rep or inside salesperson or what have you, like that's really novel, right? And if you get people to, we all know that if you can entice people to use the products, and if you can leverage AI to drive more value in the experience that the employee has, you can only imagine what's going to be the effect on the outside, right, for the customer, which is why we're all here, right?
Yeah. And yeah, and there's little things that we've done in there. It's really simple things, but real great value add. So if you go and add a note to a meeting that you've had saying, I need to meet this customer next Tuesday at their office, the system will automatically go and create an appointment in your diary for next Tuesday at the customer's office. Again, really simple stuff, but actually it really helps the sales rep ensure that they're doing the right things. And the system will help them to go and show them this is what you need to do, and gives them that all important characteristic of this is one you should execute on and here's what you should do, as well as here's one you should ignore. Yeah. Because again, from all the customers that I speak to from that perspective, very, very few of them are saying, I haven't got enough things to do. What they're saying is, I've got too much to do. How do I prioritize? And I think with the embedded AI we have in here, it's a really nice way to go and give the sales guy guidance of these are the things that you should double down on, and here are the things that are a P5 at best.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I really appreciate that. And you've emphasized it a few times, but focus is always important. And if the system can actually help us determine where we should focus, that in itself will help drive performance. And speaking of performance, let's look at some of the metrics that we've seen out there in the marketplace. I don't know if you want to comment on any of these. Certainly, as we discussed earlier, we leverage new technologies and we advance technology so that we can get better performance, do more with less, et cetera. But anything you'd want to comment here?
Again, I think the one I love on here is 50% less time spent on doing stuff that doesn't make a difference. Yeah. So really making sure, the example we talked about, making a meeting request, producing a pipeline report for your boss, whatever it happens to be, really making sure that we're paying sales guys good money to be sales guys. Let them be sales guys, not administrators in the system. So I really think, how do we get a sales guy to be doing the stuff that he's great at doing, which is selling, not always the best at doing paperwork, but also making sure by helping them focus on the right thing, they're going to win more. Again, everybody hates wasting their time. Most good salespeople hate losing deals. So let's help them win more deals from that perspective, but also think about how we can use as a way to be more focused. And again, the bottom one, 145% increase in revenue with the same sales team, just by using some of the automated tools and the solution that really help them drive success, but also help them drive the right places to go, the right things to do, the right opportunities to focus on where the money actually is, which isn't always with your nicest customers, the ones who give you the biscuits and the nice coffee, but actually help you progress on the ones that actually are ready to spend and are at that right point and that cusp of spending, and what you do to make sure they spend with you and not spend with your competition.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is one of the things that that kind of gets me excited. I'm very passionate about, right? Is that when we bring our two platforms together and we can help drive performance in organizations and help solve their problems so that they can, do better in the marketplace, et cetera. Let's go to the next slide here. And, before we open it up for questions, one of the things that's always out there is, how can I learn more? And, when can we, see some of this in action? Like you saw a little video playing and things like that. Next week, actually, we're taking this show on the road, literally. So we'll both be in Las Vegas at the Gartner Sales Leader Conference. And we'll actually be hosting a roundtable there where I think we'll, chew on this topic a little bit more. There'll be a little more customer interaction there as well. We also have SAP's premier events coming up, which is the Sapphire events, both in Orlando as well as Barcelona. So if you're planning on attending either of those, we will be there as well. You'll get to hear from a lot of SAP and Mediafly customers as to how they're using the tools we use every day, and the tools that we're applying more and more of these AI use cases to as well. John, I think, maybe it'd be a good time to talk a little bit about the possibility of folks trialing the Sales and Service Cloud software.
So again, one thing that we've done as part of SAP, trying to be closer with our customers and learn what goes on, we've now got free demo systems that customers can go and have a play on. So the link here is on the site, on the sap.com. And again, go and get yourself access to our system. Go and see it for yourself. It's a fully loaded system with lots of the data already in there. So you'll see some of the AI in action, and you'll be able to see what we're so excited about and what our customers are so excited about what we've released from that perspective. Again, just 2 words of note. It's a free use for 30 days. It's also a global system. So if you put data in there, if I went and put Mediafly as a customer in there, everybody else will be able to see this. So please don't put any trade secrets in the system from that perspective, but please go and log in, create yourself a trial account, and go and have a play. The one thing I will say is, as you log in, you'll create your single user. It's the same system for both our sales capability and our service capability. So we've gone, here's everything, go and have a play from that perspective. So it's not a dedicated sales or a service tenant, it's a sales and service tenant. So you can go and see both parts of our core portfolio and all the embedded AI that we have within that solution.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's really putting it out there, right? So people can check it out and get their own sense of how it works and so forth. So why don't we go to the next slide, which is just Q&A. We'll wait a second here. I see a couple questions popping in. I guess I would just remind you that if you're at one of those shows, or if you want to reach out to either, John Heald on LinkedIn or directly, we will supply, or myself, to talk more about these topics. We are available and love to chat about these things. John, there's this one's from an SAP customer. So the first thing is, I'm an SAP customer. I've heard about the business AI. How can I get a hold of it? How can I start testing it? And any advice around that?
Yeah, again, go and have a look at the demo link that we have, and go and have a play with that in a relatively safe environment. But also, again, what we have is the ability to bring a lot of this AI to our existing sales and service customers. So I know our sales team will be more than happy to talk to you. But again, we have sales and service capability, they're able to buy. But equally importantly, we've got what we call an early adopter care program running. So as you run this out, you'll have somebody from our development team working very closely with you to make sure that you see all the value out of the solution and understand how it's helping you add to your process. So it's not just about giving you the software, it's also making sure that you see the value and get the successes out of this that we've seen with other customers. Because what I'd love to have is some of you here on this webinar to be in those 145% increased revenue streams, 50% more time spent on selling perspective. I'd love to have your stats in those slides. And that's why we've released our early adopter care, to help you with that sort of perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. And then there's one more from a Mediafly perspective. Where can I start learning, leveraging AI? And, I would just say that, together, so I've mentioned that we use AI together with SAP, but we also use it, for some of our core functionality as well. And, we've got it embedded in our call recording process. And, what's neat about that is, it basically, I actually can leave the pen down and it will take notes for me. And it will also summarize like what the activities are and, kind of suggest the next best step for me, which is great. That's one area that you'll see that we're rapidly using today, and other areas in the sense of, smart content recommendations and, not, where it's getting smarter based on the interactions that you're having with customers. And so, again, you're going to start seeing those things pop up and become very valuable to your users.
Yeah. I just saw another question come through as well. So somebody was asking, does AI only work with your CX data? From that, so obviously not. The experience that a customer has with you is not just based upon what the sales team have told him or the customer service team. It's also involved with how the finance team have engaged with the customer, how they've been chasing them down for bad debts. It's how the delivery team have they been short shipping this customer all the time. So it's really about making sure that we're looking at every single thing that our organization is doing to the customers, because those impact all the ways that you need to engage, the likelihood of winning with a customer, but also all the other things about what I should be doing as a next step for validations of that. So it's really important that as you're looking at how AI can help AI needs to understand across all ways that this customer has touched you as an organization in order to deliver the best possible winning outcomes across the board. So it's not just about your sales teams, it's about giving the insight to the sales team about the entire customer experience.
That's fantastic. Okay, so no pressure, John. You know how I pride myself on being punctual and valuing people's time. You have about 2 minutes to give us one last piece of advice that you would give to other sales and revenue leaders that are, looking to leverage AI-powered apps.
The one piece of advice I would give everybody is you have to start now. If you don't, your competitors will be. So again, utilizing AI to give you the step ahead from that perspective, but also make sure that what you're doing is seeing what's really there. There's so much hype and so much PowerPoints and so many people saying all the great stuff that they're doing with AI. Just make sure that you see it, you can touch it, you can feel it, because proof really is in seeing what it can do and understanding how this can help impact your business and deliver successful results for your organization to improve your top and your bottom line.
John, well said. And you came in with 1 minute left, so I appreciate that. And I know our audience appreciates that. So again, we look forward to continuing this discussion, whether it's online, whether it's at Gartner, whether it's at one of the Sapphire events or even a conference call or something. So again, thank you so much, John. Really appreciate the discussion. As always, I learned from you and learned from what SAP is doing and the marketplace. So thank you, and thank you for all our listeners out there. And we look forward to connecting with you. Have a great day.
Thank you, Tony. Looking forward to seeing you in the bar behind you sometime soon.
Sounds good.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.